Have you ever wondered why the Allies allowed the Reds to win the Russian Civil War, which took place from 1917 to 1922? I wondered this for quite a while, and I think I've gotten it figured out. The Russian Civil War is usually explained as a tragedy of Russian failure, bad leadership, disunity, brutality. The whites lost, we're told, because they deserved to lose, but that explanation leaves something out, because on paper, the anti-Bolshevik whites were aligned with Britain and American interests. They opposed communism. They wanted a restored Russian state. They fought the same enemy the Allies claimed to fear, and yet they were allowed to fail. The question isn't why the Reds won, it's why the Allies never truly tried to stop them. Section 1. Power after the war. In 1918, Britain and the United States stood at the height of their power. They had just won the largest war in human history. They controlled global shipping. They controlled finance. They controlled the peace. If they had wanted to determine the outcome of the Russian Civil War, they could have. That they didn't wasn't a lack of capacity. It was a matter of intent. The real question facing Allied policymakers was not whether Bolshevism was desirable. It clearly wasn't. The question was, what kind of Russia would emerge after the war? Section 2. The geopolitical fear. Long before 1917, British strategists had identified the real danger, not revolution, unity. Halford Mackinder's Heartland Theory warned that control of Eastern Europe and the Eurasian interior would eventually outweigh naval power. Railways had changed everything. A single, coherent land power stretching across Eurasia could challenge any sea-based empire, and the nightmare scenario was clear: an industrial Germany aligned with a resource-rich Russia. That threat didn't disappear when Germany lost the war, it merely went underground. Section 3. Why a white victory was unacceptable. A white victory would not have restored the old empire. It would have created something far more dangerous. A national Russian state, resentful, revanchist, excluded from Versailles. A Russia with every reason to overturn the post-World War order. And Germany, humiliated, isolated, and desperate, would have been the natural partner. From London and Washington, this was an existential risk. A revolutionary Russia was dangerous. A coherent Eurasian power was existentially dangerous. That distinction mattered more than ideology. Section 4. Constraining the whites. Allied policy towards the whites followed a clear pattern. Intervention was limited, fragmented, uncoordinated. Weapons arrived late, supplies didn't match logistics. There was no unified command. But the most damaging decision was diplomatic. The whites were never recognized. Without recognition, they couldn't stabilize currencies. They couldn't access credit. They couldn't legitimize authority. The whites were allowed to fight. They were not allowed to win. Section 5. Facilitating the Reds. At the same time, Bolshevik leadership benefited from repeated acts of facilitation at crucial moments. Lenin's return to Russia in 1917 is the most famous case. German involvement is well known, and their involvement makes sense because they wanted Russia out of the war to free up that front. What's less discussed is that British intelligence was aware of his movements and chose not to stop him. In an era of mass surveillance and political detention, this mattered. So did Leon Trotsky's return. Living openly in New York, detained briefly in Canada, then released after intervention from higher British authority, Trotsky would go on to build the Red Army. Leadership mattered, mobility mattered, and again obstacles appeared for one side and vanished for the other. Section 6. Positive asymmetry. This wasn't sponsorship, it was something more subtle, positive asymmetry. The whites were constrained, the Reds were facilitated. Not to ensure Bolshevik victory, but to prevent Russian restoration. Fragmentation was acceptable, isolation was acceptable, weakness was acceptable, unity was not. Section 7. Germany remains the key. Throughout all of this, Germany remained the central concern. Versailles was designed to keep Germany weak. A restored Russia would have offered Germany a way out, A Bolshevik Russia did not. Once again, a revolutionary Russia was dangerous. A coherent Eurasian power was existentially dangerous. Conclusion. By 1922, the Bolsheviks had won. Russia was devastated. Germany was contained. Eurasia remained fragmented and fractured. In the short term, Allied strategy appeared to succeed. The long-term consequences would be catastrophic. The tragedy of Russia was not the result of Allied confusion. It was the result of deliberate choice. Constraint of the whites and facilitation of the reds was not contradictions. They were complements. Faced with the choice between revolution and restoration, the Allies chose fragmentation over unity and weakness over power, because in the calculus of empire, unity was the real threat.